Hi, I'm Marcel, and welcome to me screaming into the void, mostly about books. In this video, I'm going to talk about my trip to Hey-on-Wye, and this is what's called a town of books. Now, there are a few of these around, especially Europe, but Hey-on-Wye was the first one that is a town that sort of makes itself a tourist attraction by focusing on books and literature. Now, you can see on this map that we were given by the tourist information that there are 25, actually 27 booksellers in this small town of a couple of thousand inhabitants. Hey-on-Wye is a town that's on the border between Wales and England and is considered a Welsh town. So what you sort of see here is, of course, a map of all the booksellers, because this is very much a town that people come and visit. But one of the things that surprised me when visiting Hey-on-Wye was that I was told it was a book town, and then I was surprised about how many other things that you can do in Hey-on-Wye, but still considering that it is very much a town based on tourism, but it's not tourism as in people from other countries. I went there on Saturday, and my impression of the town, because the town was full of people, but most of them were British or Welsh. So my impression is that this is a sort of town that a lot of people that are from neighboring towns will come and visit on, for example, a Saturday to spend their day. And in addition to all of these booksellers, you also have a lot of shops based on craftsmanship or especially antiques. But I was there for the books. I visited, we started here, and I visited this many books, book of the booksellers. I got about half of them. And then I had to call my mother and say that, because I was traveling with my mother. And I just had to say, I've spent too much money. We need to go now. But you are here to see the books. And some of the books do have their own speciality. So you, for example, had a book seller that specialized on queer literature called Gay-on-Wye, which is just a brilliant pun. You also had someone who specialized on crime, but most of the booksellers are generally used books. So this is very much a second-hand bookseller town. And that also includes that there is one bookseller that is not mentioned here, and that is in connection with Heian Castle. About here, you will have the Honesty booksellers, which is just a couple of bookshelves under a roof where they have books for sale, and then you have to sort of pay for the books in a little box, which is fun. The whole town was just fun for if you enjoy reading books or buying books. Mostly buying books. I did not read while I was on Hey-on-Wye. But here I'm going to show you what I bought. So I'm a huge fan of Shakespeare, and I found these two books about Shakespeare that I found very interesting. This is a book that talks about Shakespeare from 1564 to 1964. So this book was actually published in the 1960s. And this book was published in, I think it was 1920s. I think this book was around 1920s. I suddenly got a bit unsure. Being very careful. It's an old book. No, 1939. So you have a book from 1939 and 1964 that talks about Shakespeare. So it's going to be interesting to see how did you talk about Shakespeare in these decades. So that was a book. Another book I bought was H.G. Wells, A Short History of the World. He is, of course, the science fiction author, and he also wrote A Short History of the World. And I think this is considered, again, have to be careful. These are old books, used books. So this is, in a lot of ways, a non-fiction book. But you see sort of the beginning of life, the age of fishes. So, as I stated, there were Agatha Christie was there in galore, not just in the bookseller that specialized in murder mysteries. So, and I am collecting all of her books, and I'm collecting them in a way that I am trying to find used examples of her books. So, and I probably could have just found all of her books in one of the shops. So this is one of her books, and it's about someone called Parker Pine. So that will be interesting. This one I bought in the Hey-on-Wye, and it's actually Eleven is actually First Nation, and First Nation is Australia and New Zealand. So I am assuming then, considering that it was bought on Hey-on-Wye, that this is therefore a First Nation classic queer literature. I found Ursula Le Guin, which is an author I'm enjoying very much now that I've been reading a bit more science fiction lately. So, and this was one of her lesser known books. The Underdog by Mariano Azuela. This book I primarily bought because Mariano Azuela is a Mexican author, and I thought it would be interesting to have a book by a Mexican author. I'm not that deep. Mostly I'm quite shallow. this beautiful edition of Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell, with wonderful illustrations in it. I read Cranford, but Elizabeth Gaskell is one of my absolutely favourite authors. And Cranford is not her most known, but so it's a bit damaged. That's why I got it fairly cheap. But it's a beautiful, beautiful book. And as someone who does love Elizabeth Gaskell, Cranford is a collection of short stories that are interconnected in a way. And they are about this little town of Cranford that is where normal everyday things are happening in this quaint little town. And these beautiful illustrations. So I'm very glad I got that I found this book, because one of the things that is enjoyable with reading or buying second-hand books is, of course, that you can. One thing is that you can find books that you wouldn't have thought of, or that are sort of, oh, I didn't know that this author wrote this book. But the other one is finding rare editions of authors that you enjoyed. And speaking about, I didn't know this author wrote that. C.S. Lewis writing science fiction, Voyage to Venus. I knew he had the whole space trilogy that I am currently reading. I've read 2 of them, and I have yet to read the third. So I had to pick up C.S. Lewis. And then we have Arthur C. Clarke, which is another staple of science fiction royalty, lack of a better word. And Childhood's End is actually one of his books that keep popping up as one of the books that you should read from him. Blotting out the light from the stars, they had linked so effortlessly. The silent ships hangs suspended over the great cities of earth, and the long and bloody chapter of history comes to an end. So most of these books I know of. I know they exist. I do not know. I haven't read most of them, with the exception of Cranford. And you have to let me know if you think that I should do more videos about Elizabeth Gaskell, because I can talk about her for hours. More Agatha Christie. I bought a lot of Agatha Christie. Could have bought more. Didn't want to spend all my money there. And this is the second book that I bought in Hey-on-Wye. So this is such a brilliant concept that I fell in love with it and had to do something about it. This is about a woman traveling in the multiverse and trying to find a multiverse where her partner is alive. So trying to find Kara, who is dead in all but 8 of them. So that was such a brilliant concept that I just had to buy it. Please let me know which one of these books that you think I should read next. There is not that much of a variety. It's a lot of science fiction. because I am in the science fiction trend right now. Have you been at Hey-on-Wye? What did you think about the town, or do you know of other book towns, or so towns with this kind of concept? And thank you for listening to me screaming into the void.